Our next guest is Smarter San Diego's very own tax attorney badass. Please welcome back to the show, board-certified tax attorney Jeffrey Kahn.
Jeff, what's up, man?
Hey, Derek.
How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me again on the show.
Thanks for wearing the money green suit, man. I love it.
Yeah, that's right. The Ben Franklin,
The
right?
Ben Franklin version. That's right. Not the Andrew Jackson. Huge topic today. Donald Trump, obviously surging in the polls, still the front runner on the Republican side of things, and he recently revealed his tax plan.
That's right.
Now, this was something that he had been kind of, I don't want to say he was promoting it, but he was doing some promo work saying, I got a tax plan. He released it. I heard you on your radio show dissecting it. I said, we got to have Jeff on TV to talk about this. So we also put it on social media, so we have some funny stuff on there to share. But can you help us understand, is the Trump tax plan legit?
It isn't.
It's not.
Okay. And Trump needs to go back to the drawing board because he's forgetting the one big principle which every single administration has had to face this huge challenge. And that is, when you fool around with the tax code and you want to make tax cuts, you've got to be what's called revenue neutral.
Okay.
And it's a very easy concept. I don't understand why the politicians have a hard time with it. Derek, I'm going to pass a law that's going to give people like you a tax cut of $1,000. Okay? If I'm going to be revenue neutral, then I've got to find another class of people that I can actually raise their taxes by $1,000 to cover your tax cut. And if I don't want to raise other people's taxes, then I need to find other sources of revenue, such as maybe increase admission fees to parks, or other user fees, so I can pay for the tax cut that I'm giving you.
And so he doesn't have a design to pay for the cuts that he's proposing.
Well, he claims that he does, and so let's go through his claims. Okay? Number one, he claims, well, by giving such huge tax cuts, it's going to increase economic activity. And the theory is, if economic activity increases, well, there's going to be more tax revenues to collect as a result of that. Now, that's partly true. So if you figure with Trump's plan, his tax cuts would amount to about $12 trillion.
Really?
Yes.
12
over
trillion?
10 years. Over 10 years.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
Okay? Now, the government has figured out that $12 trillion in tax cuts over 10 years, after you net out the increase in economic activity because of those tax cuts, actually would end up costing the government about $10 trillion as opposed to $12 trillion. Okay? But, we still have a deficit. And the deficit is, for 2014, about $426 billion. And one of the other things Trump has claimed is, well, there's wasteful spending. So I guarantee that if I cut out this wasteful spending, even with the tax cuts, I'll be able to balance the budget. Okay? Well, the Congressional Budget Office did a study and figured that there's probably about $128 billion a year in what they would call wasteful or improper spending. Okay. Well, do the math. If you get rid of that wasteful spending and improper payments, you're still running a deficit of about $300 billion a year. And now you're doing all these tax cuts on top of that. So where do you balance the budget?
I see. So when you say revenue neutral, what you're saying is you've got to maintain the amount of income and find a different source for it, and he hasn't done that.
That's correct. That's correct. And if the idea is, well, we're going to cut spending, well, you ready to cut $10, $12 trillion of spending over 10 years? And what happens if, there's an emergency and now we have to go into war, or you have some kind of catastrophe, like California has a major earthquake. We need to help out California.
Yeah.
Okay. What are we supposed to say? Well, we cut the spending, guys, so sorry, Charlie, we're not going to help you out. Come on.
So it's It sounds to me then what you're saying is Trump's tax plan is more of a ploy to get people to say, yes, Trump.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. It's real attractive.
It's attractive.
Somebody says, "Hey, I'm
Sounds
going to cut
good,
your
kid."
tax rate."
Good
You
at
know.
that. He's good at the entertainment.
That's
Sounds good.
That's right.
So what we decided to do, Jeff, to have a little fun with this,
Okay.
was ask Facebook what they thought, Jen.
Is Donald Trump's tax plan legit? And most people thought no. Alex Arpez said Trump has no idea of middle and lower income families and what they go through. He seems to think if the rich benefit, so will the lower. And then he said, capitalist Nazi. Ooh, he's just a joke and a waste of airtime. Oh, that must hurt.
Well, I mean, it's hard to argue with Alex in that regard. I mean, Trump doesn't know really what it's like to be middle class. I don't know how the numbers shake out, but I know Jeff knows what he's talking about. And, you know, the reality is that it sounds like the tax plan might need to go back to the drawing board on that side of things. But ultimately, at the end of the day, let's look at it. He's, at this point, a politician. He's a businessman, but he's a politician. And he's a politician who's trying to win an election.
And he's number one right now in the
And
polls.
he's number one.
That's right.
So, you know, what have we learned about politicians? They tend to tell us what we want to hear. He's being a little bit more bold, I think, than most politicians have been. Just saying, yes, I'm going to do it. It's going to happen. You know, and doesn't really have a plan necessarily for some of those things, but he's saying, you know, I'm going to build a wall. I'm going to find the money.
Well, let's be real. That's his style anyway.
True. Exactly.
That's how he does.
You're fired. We saw that for years on The Apprentice, right? That's what he does. What else did we hear from social media, Jen?
I have to skip to the last one, Monica Palomino, and she said, "Nada del gringo me gusta," with angry emojis and mad faces. So
Nada del gringo me gusta.
she thinks no.
That's
she's
funny.
going to move out of the country, I think,
So-
if he wins.
If anyone can't translate basic Spanish, which I don't know Spanish, but I know these words, basically she's saying nothing that this white man is saying that I like. I like nothing that he says.
With an angry red face.
Yes, and the
Yes.
angry face. Also, we should read Randy John's comment, though.
Randy Johns, he said, "We need to cut government spending by 50% and keep taxes close to where they are in total until our national debt is down or gone."
I think that's really kind of more realistic, don't you think, Jeff?
I think so. And you know, it touches on a point, a thought that I have is, and one of the things, I guess, where Trump is coming from, and I actually agree with him on this, is that somehow the tax code needs to be structured so that the tax savings that people or businesses have, they'll use it to reinvest it back into the country and create more jobs and stuff like that. And I definitely agree with that. A lot of times, though, I mean, if you're a business person, clearly if you're going to expand, if you're going to add on people, you're taking on a risk. So there's a reward if you make it big and everything works out the way that you thought it would. Okay, you make more money, you pay your tax on it, you go ahead and move on. But what if things don't work out the way that you expected and now you have a loss? Well, think about it. If you raise the tax rate on people, okay, then that means their risk is actually less. Because if, for example, right now you're at a 25% tax bracket, you invest $10,000 in a new business and you lose it, you know, your net is actually $7,500 that you lost because you're saving $2,500 in taxes from the losses.
Right.
If, however, you're in a 50% tax bracket, you're investing that same $10,000 and you lose it all in the business, it's really costing you a net of $5,000.
That's interesting. Never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Jen, let's just be honest here. For normal people like you and me, all right, the IRS especially, but the state tax agencies as well, and I'm talking about the Franchise Tax Board here in California and the EDD and all the tax work that they do.
The BOE.
And the BOE, all involved in taxes. We don't know how any of this stuff works. The game is rigged. Honestly, if you don't have someone like Jeff on your team, you really are at a huge disadvantage. I mean, they constantly are, I don't want to say preying on people, but let's be honest. They're attacking people, trying to get revenues. That's their job.
right.
Their job is to accumulate revenues, and they will come after you. And if you don't know the rules, if you don't know how things work, if you don't know if you've done things right or wrong, then you're really in a tough spot. By the way, on ESPN 1700 Fridays, 2 to 3 p.m., listen to Jeff's radio show, and you'll learn stuff like this. You'll hear things like this. So I wanted to have him on to talk about that. But normally we talk about the different aspects and the ways that the IRS and the FTB and the BOE and the all these other ones, EDD, how they're going after people, how they're trying to get money, and how Jeff can help people in that situation. I have him on speed dial. They've come after me twice. I called Jeff twice. Guess what? Jeff hit a grand slam twice, and the issues got taken care of.
Wow.
So, Jeff, I appreciate you coming in today talking about Trump's tax plan. I know it's a little off subject for you, but at the end of the day, he knows it better than anyone else does, and we want to make you smarter than everyone else. So stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV.